Yellowstone is without a doubt one of the most popular television shows of the modern era, so it only makes sense that the creator, Taylor Sheridan, would sit down with the most popular podcaster of the modern era, Joe Rogan. And what do they talk about? Masculinity, of course, but not just masculinity, but the dichotomy between the left and the right, the liberal versus the conservative. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and I think it's important that we dissect this conversation and have a conversation about it ourselves because, well, let's be real, most of my audience is men, and I think that the dynamic between men and women and what men's role is in the modern world is quite important. So before we get into the discussion, hit the subscribe button because I truly appreciate your support. We grew immensely in 2023, and we're only going to grow more in 2024. So thank you for hitting the button. Let's talk about how the Yellowstone creator and Rogan scoff at liberal ideology for demonizing work ethic and masculinity. Now, hold on. I know a lot of you probably want to just click off the video because it says scoff at liberal ideology. I'll acknowledge this article, it's coming from Fox News. They've got a pretty ideological bend to this. Obviously Fox News, they favor the right side of things. I, on the other hand, don't do that. But I don't favor the left either, because if you know me, you know I'm a pretty down-the-middle individual. So I'm using this as the source of the conversation, but I just want to talk about the conversation in and of itself. I actually don't think that Rogan scoffs at the liberal ideology. Rogan himself is a liberal individual, whether you want to admit it or not. He's actually borderline socialist. Sheridan shared a theory that conservatism and liberalism are destined to polarize because of different beliefs about human nature. Well, what are those beliefs? I mean, you can only learn by going through the article. So rather than clicking away and just staying hunkered down in your ideology of the left or the right, let's break it down. Let's read through the article, see what it has to say, and maybe we got some opinions of our own. Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan spoke with podcaster Joe Rogan about how social activists have polarized the country by vilifying qualities like work ethic and masculinity. And I would agree, social activists have polarized the country, but they've done it on both sides. Anyone that does not see that the left and the right are really two sides of the same coin, well, they're missing out. And if they don't see that, they are probably one of the ideologues, depending on what side they're on. You can be an ideologue on the left or the right. Only somebody who is really paying attention knows both sides are equally bad and see this country headed for absolute disaster. You've got to be able to acknowledge sometimes the right has good points, sometimes the left has good points, and you got to take with the good with the bad and keep moving forward. Sheridan mentioned a famous poem, If I Were the Devil, written and popularized by national radio commentator Paul Harvey in the mid-1960s. In the poem, Harvey describes how the biblical figure Satan would go about corrupting the world by subverting the culture of the United States, up until the twist at the end reveals such trends have already begun. Now let's be real, you might think the 60s were great, that they did so much for progressive culture in the US, but you can't acknowledge that, you can't not acknowledge that that's kind of true. I mean, these are the same individuals that say that, hey, race relations are as bad as they've ever been. Well, really? Because in the 60s, individuals were fighting to make them better, and they were better for long periods of the time. The 70s, the 80s, the 90s. I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, and never once had a racist thought or a racist ideology in my head whatsoever. We just all got along on the basis of, hey, we were kids who enjoyed hanging out on the schoolyard, and our parents got along because, well, we all lived in the same neighborhoods. So yes, this whole modern thought process of, oh, race relations are so bad, is very much a product of liberal teachers or individuals with certain ideologies in the upper echelons of these modern school systems that want to force some sort of bad race relation because they want to have something to fight for. We're living in a time where it's too easy, so you gotta find some sort of demon. In this instance, the demon is modern society, systemic racism, whatever it may be. But yeah, these people will claim that the 60s were a great time. It was a time of sexual liberation for women, for feminism, things to that effect. You really can't have it both ways. So it is interesting to bring up this poem. The poem is often praised for observing the social trends in the 1960s and extrapolating that what they would overturn America's values in the following decades. Kinda does seem like what we're going through now, I'll give it that much. Wow, April 3rd, 1965. Paul Harvey nailed it, Rogan said after playing one version of the poem. Wow. You can use the devil as a euphemism for anything you want, the Yellowstone creator said, but the result is the same. We're seeing it. And boom, if you made it this far, you don't have to think of the devil literally. You don't think of a physical manifestation of Satan, of Lucifer, whatever you want to call him. The devil is just an idea, a figment, something that exists as an ethereal being. You don't have to take it literally literally. It's very much a metaphor, but it is still true. It is still the ultimate evil, and you can see it taking root in today's modern beliefs. I mean, if you want to say, well, white supremacy is the devil, fantastic. You still acknowledge it is the devil, so you believe in it in some way, shape, or form. Sheridan recounted some rhetoric he had heard along the lines of, all these things are bad, work ethic, all these things are racist. In an infamous incident, the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture shared a widely condemned chart about race, indicating that concepts such as hard work is the key to success, the nuclear family, and rugged individualism are aspects of the white dominant culture of America. The museum received fierce backlash, as they should have. I got plenty of black friends. My buddy Abomination AJ, who I streamed with just yesterday, is a black individual. I really wouldn't like individuals just stating, oh, AJ is the same as any other black person, but they're saying right here, rugged individualism is an aspect of a white dominant culture. Now that's pretty messed up if you ask me, because I wouldn't want individuals saying that my friend is the same as any other black person. No, AJ is my friend because of who he is as an individual, who he is on the inside, his rugged individualism. His skin color doesn't have a damn thing to do with it. Calling the nuclear family racist, calling it a white dominant culture. So are you stating that what, black families shouldn't stay together, they shouldn't raise children as a loving family unit? What about hard work being the key to success? I'll go back to using AJ as an example. Don't get me the wrong way. I'm not trying to tokenize you, bud, if you end up watching this, but let's be real. You're a hard worker, so you're a very good example of this. Yes, AJ works hard. He's trying to launch his way of providing something to the YouTube community. He's an artist. He makes fantastic art. He draws characters, he draws emojis, he anthropomorphizes your avatar. That's not an aspect of something that all black people can do. No, he worked hard to develop his art. He went to school. He got his degree in animation. So what is that if not that hard work's the key to success, and his rugged individualism is what led him down that path? But apparently that was something that the African American history and culture side of the Smithsonian National Museum tried to say was a bad thing. I say burn that. That is an awful ideology to be teaching individuals. Rogan agreed, with Sheridan added that masculinity has been labeled as toxic in recent years. Oh yeah, I've been accused of that, Sheridan replied. Well, it doesn't surprise me that Taylor Sheridan's been accused of that, because let's be real, Yellowstone, while I haven't seen it, I've heard quite a bit about it. It's a pretty masculine show from everything I've heard. That's actually why it was so beloved. It's so different than what we've been seeing and hearing on TV nowadays, because everything nowadays comes from Marvel or Disney or these tired, trite TV shows that make women the main character of everything, likely make them gay, shove men to the wayside, and if they don't shove men to the wayside, it's because they're showing off characters that are non-white men who are, quite frankly, probably part of the LGBTQ element of QISTUVW X plus negative, agenda, something to that effect. I don't know. I really don't care. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, Yellowstone, pretty masculine show, and it makes sense that Taylor Sheridan would have been attacked over that, because we all know that Joe Rogan has been attacked over that as well, when all he's ever done is made jokes and say work hard and try and make it on your own. Congratulations, you're on the right side, Joe Rogan said and laughed. Defund the police, toxic masculinity, they're all sort of the same category of things, he said. Seems silly to think that way. You need all of it, Rogan continued. You need masculinity and femininity, and any man will tell you this. Any man will agree you cannot exist without femininity. Femininity is so important to masculinity. Want to know why? That's how you procreate. That's how you continue with the species. That's how you continue with the culture. Men need women. Women need men. It's not a very popular thing to say nowadays, but yeah, women absolutely need men. Men also need women. We didn't evolve the way we did because, one can work without the other. That is scientifically impossible. So for all you women that think that, it would be great if men just disappeared, you're morons. For all you dudes that think, I just want to bang as much women as I can and never form an emotional attachment relationship, you're also complete morons. Men and women exist to coexist. It really is that simple, but for some reason, so many individuals on both sides of the aisle can't seem to figure this out. So when Joe Rogan says you need all of it, yeah, he is entirely correct, and went on to say that the natural masculine behavior is required for activities like professional football, slamming the idea that masculinity is toxic. Masculinity is not toxic. It is a natural byproduct. It is part of nature. These are all terms that have been created, Sheridan said. It's fascinating that language has been reinvented before our eyes. Boy, hasn't it. There's all these new words that are just meant to keep one person from disagreeing with another person's position. Sheridan went on to recount an excerpt from a book noting the fundamental difference between liberalism and conservatism. The reason, now I do want you to pay attention to this because this is interesting. The article said at the beginning that they scoffed at liberalism, but that's not true. They talk about the negatives and positives of both sides, and that's because there really are negatives and positives to both liberalism and conservatism. And anyone that doesn't think so, you're an ideologue and you know nothing about what you're talking about. The fundamental difference between liberalism and conservatism. The reason these ideologies are destined to polarize further and further apart to extremes. Essentially, it stated that the liberal point of view was that crime and all these social ills is a social construct, and if you could find a way to level the playing field for everybody, crime would be eliminated. All these issues would go away. Poverty would go away. All the social ills that we would disappear if everyone had the same opportunities and the same stuff. Now, obviously, anyone with half of a brain cell would know that that is not accurate. That doesn't account for mental illness. That doesn't account for free will and people just not wanting to work even if the playing field is level. It doesn't account for any of that. So no, you can level the playing field as much as you want. You're still going to have lazy individuals who don't give a damn about society, who will do sometimes things to actively go out of their way to harm society. Liberalism as a 100% measure does not work. But, well, that doesn't mean conservatism as a 100% measure works as well, because listen to this. The flip side of that is conservatism view, which is there's evil in the world. There's good in the world. We're going to try and manage the evil as best we can and create an opportunity for people to succeed, or they can fuck up and best of luck, he continued. One side seems naive, the other seems extremely harsh. Yes, if they fuck up and best of luck, I don't agree with that either, because if they fuck up and best of luck, that gets rid of the individuals helping that individual from making mistakes. If someone screws up, they're not just left on their own. The liberal, the bleeding heart, would want to help them. That's why you need both. You need liberalism and conservatism because they work together, and they work together brilliantly. You got the bleeding heart who will help the person who screws up. But if you screw up too many times, you have the conservative who will come in and bring down the band hammer and say, you know what, you're done. Because at this point, you're abusing the system, not using it for its operational intent. And I think that is incredibly important. Rather than liberals and conservatives always fighting, they gotta realize they should come together because they have more in common than they realize. One side seems naive, one seems extremely harsh, but those are the beliefs, and that side can never compromise with this side and vice versa because you're abandoning your own ideology. You know, it shouldn't take some dude who made a TV show talking to another dude who stands up on a stage and tells jokes to bring you such facts. And if this is the first time you're hearing it, it shouldn't take some long-haired, probably hippie-looking mofo that just wants to make entertaining videos for you guys to bring you said facts. But here we are. Anyone watching these videos, honestly, you're probably on one particular side of the culture war, but I get individuals on other sides as well. I get both views because I am, at the end of the day, a centrist. I get people calling me a filthy liberal. I get individuals calling me a conservative cuck. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The fact is, I get people of all sides watching my videos. Yet none of you guys ever seem to realize you gotta work together. We can't do this by just going out on our own and trying to beat the other side. And I know, I hear the arguments, the other side, their ideas are so toxic that they will never work with us. No, we have to crush them and build our own foundation. No, that's wrong. Your ideology is inherently flawed because your ideology should be built on fostering a working relationship of compromise. And if you don't believe that, if you cannot get that through your head, then you are just in the exact same ideological boat as the individual that you claim to hate. Doesn't matter left, doesn't matter right, you are wrong either way if you cannot foster a working relationship with the other side and try and find what you have in common instead of what you have as a difference. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at BoltTheWord. And please just subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day. And while yes, this video probably a bit heavier than your typical nerdy news video, I felt like it did need to be said. I mean, look, Yellowstone's a massive show, Joe Rogan's a massive podcaster, and I got some massive opinions that I felt fit just in line with this. But by all means, also check me out on Instagram at wordsofparadise_Leon, and remember, it's all here in the nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.